Ellen thought she had the upper hand, ambushing Karoline Leavitt on live TV with a smug game meant to embarrass her. But when the tables turned and the audience started clapping for Leavitt instead, who really got exposed?
Parts of my job is getting to meet people who are changing the world. At only 24 years old, our next guest is doing just that.
It started with what seemed like an innocent invitation, one that Karoline Leavitt and her team had no reason to question. Ellen Degeneres producers had reached out with a pitch that sounded empowering and lighthearted. The proposed theme was all about celebrating young women who were breaking new ground in politics, a message that fit perfectly with Leavitt's new advocacy group and public persona. There was no mention of controversy, no indication of confrontation, and certainly no warning that things would take a turn under the studio lights.
Do you think the GOP has a chance of really winning some of these younger voters who have traditionally been voting for Democrats?
To Leavitt, it looked like a genuine opportunity to introduce her new platform, the Future Forward Initiative, to a mainstream audience. A high-profile national talk show with millions of viewers offered a valuable stage to discuss issues she cared about, like engaging young Americans in civic leadership, especially women. The timing was strategic, and the platform was massive. Her team carefully prepared for what they expected to be a friendly, if not slightly scripted, media moment. The kind of interview where personal stories, values, and bipartisan cooperation took center stage. But from the moment she arrived at the studio, something felt off. The energy backstage didn't match the cheery tone of the email exchanges that had set this up. Staffers were polite, but not exactly warm. There was a quiet tension in the air, the kind of thing you notice in the way people avoid eye contact or how instructions feel unusually rushed. Leavitt, who'd handled press rooms and political interviews before, picked up on it instantly. This wasn't the usual talk show prep. It felt like walking into a trap without knowing exactly what it was yet.
Well, okay, it's got seeds in it, it's huge and green, and on the inside it's pink.
She waited in the green room, watching old clips of Ellen laughing with celebrity guests and playing silly games. But none of those guests had come from the political world, at least not the conservative one. It slowly began to register that her appearance wasn't going to follow that same easy rhythm. Still, she stayed composed. Whether it was a friendly chat or something more aggressive, she knew how to hold her ground. And whatever this was, she was going to face it head on.
So I thought, you love games, I love games, let's play the game.
Producers came in and out, checking on her, offering water and running through segment timing, but no one mentioned the content of the show again. No one previewed the segment titles. No one offered examples of the games they might play. It was all vague. For a show that prided itself on kindness, the mood was unusually cagey, but Leavitt didn't back out. If anything, the strange energy made her more alert, more prepared. When the cameras started rolling and Ellen walked onto the stage with her usual strut, the audience responded, but something was missing. The clapping was there, but the excitement wasn't. Maybe it was just the shift in political climate, or maybe people sensed what was coming. Whatever it was, the welcome was noticeably muted, more like a polite clap than the usual roar of excitement that greeted movie stars or pop singers. And when Ellen introduced Karoline Leavitt, the vibe dipped further. Ellen kept her trademark smile, but viewers who had been watching her for years could tell it wasn't real. It didn't stretch all the way to her eyes. Her tone was flat, her delivery unusually stiff. "Please welcome Karoline Leavitt," she said, and the applause that followed was again respectful, but not exactly warm. Leavitt walked out, confident and smiling, waving to the crowd like someone who wasn't the least bit rattled. She greeted Ellen, offered a handshake, even went in for the customary hug, but there was no real warmth exchange. Not from Ellen, not from the set, not from the audience.
Already stepping foot in the White House.
You could feel it through the screen. The tension wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, controlled. The kind of silence that creeps into the room when people aren't sure whether they're about to witness something entertaining or something awkward. Ellen opened with the usual pleasantries. "So great to have you here," she said with her polished charm. But if you were paying attention, you'd notice the way she rushed past Leavitt's resume. She glossed over her time at the White House, and jumped straight to, "You're starting some kind of political group?" A sentence that was more dismissive than curious. Just as Karoline Leavitt began explaining her work with the Future Forward initiative, Ellen shifted gears without warning. Her smile grew wider, but it didn't feel warm. It felt rehearsed. She clapped her hands and suddenly introduced a segment she called Defend or Denounce. The setup was abrupt. One moment the audience was hearing about political engagement, the next they were watching a game show. The lights changed. A title screen flashed behind them. There was a noticeable ripple in the room. Even some in the crowd didn't seem to know how to react. Ellen explained the rules with a light tone, like she was offering a harmless bit of fun. She'd read famous political quotes, and Karoline would simply respond by saying whether she defended the quote or denounced it. It sounded easy, but the atmosphere told a different story. The real intent wasn't to spark discussion, it was to corner Karoline. Ellen wasn't playing this game with neutral or inspiring quotes. She was digging up the most controversial, divisive sound bites from Republican figures, mainly from Donald Trump, and expecting Leavitt, a former Trump White House staffer, to either alienate her base or look morally compromised.
I have a message to all the white supremacists and the Nazis who came into Charlottesville today. Our message is plain and simple. Go home. You are not wanted in this great Commonwealth.
Ellen glanced at the first quote card and read it slowly, her eyes flicking toward the audience for effect. There were very fine people on both sides. The words hung in the air. She paused for dramatic impact before turning to Karoline. Defend or denounce? The tension in the studio tightened. It was one of the most quoted and misunderstood lines from Donald Trump's presidency, tied to the 2017 Charlottesville rally, where white supremacists and counter-protesters clashed violently. It was the kind of quote that instantly triggered emotion, headlines, and judgment. The trap here was clear. Ellen wanted Karoline to stumble into a no-win situation. Either defend the statement and be painted as sympathetic to racists, or denounce it and lose credibility with the conservative base. But Leavitt didn't walk into it. She took a breath, kept her voice even, and did something that's rare on talk shows like this. She gave full context. That quote, she began, is actually missing a very important detail. The audience shifted in their seats. Ellen raised an eyebrow.
People that were like us.
Every time the police came, every time the neo-Nazis came, we removed ourselves away from that. Everybody's happy, you're smiling.
Yeah.
And then
Karoline calmly explained that in the same statement, Trump had clearly condemned neo-Nazis and white nationalists. The full transcript, she said, made it obvious that Trump had been referring to people debating the removal of Confederate statues, not extremists. She didn't lash out. She didn't deflect. She corrected the record right there on daytime television in front of an audience that wasn't sure if they should clap or cringe. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.